Hey guys, I know a lot of you are really starting to figure out, hey, what does this new season, new structure look like for CrossFit? And I wanted to talk to you and kind of describe what it's going to look like going forward, or just make things a little bit more simple for you. There's a whole season that can change. It constantly fluctuates. We don't really know what the CrossFit game season's always going to look like, but that's not what CrossFit always is. That might be the pinnacle of what it has always been, but we are now starting to move into a vast area of different competitions that can really improve you as an athlete, no matter if you're trying to become a high-level, elite, professional level CrossFit athlete, or if you're a novice and just wants to get better at the sport. So here we go, pretty simple here, how to create your season. The first main point you guys are gonna really wanna look at doing is just write out your goals. Get a notebook, decide what you want to write down. If you're digital, then put it in your iPad or whatever tablet you have. But legitimately write out, just like I did on this whiteboard, what are your goals? What are you trying to do? And we'll get to that and like how to write those in a few minutes. But big to small, start with your ultimate biggest goal you can think of. What are you think you're possibly capable of? I can't tell you that directly, but you need to start thinking that. Look in a mirror and decide really about yourself. What does that want to be? For most people, I would always tell you, learn to be your best self, whatever that is. So big for like when I started, I decided, hey, I wanted to win the CrossFit Games and had to understand what my structure of life looked like. No, didn't win the games, but made it as on a team and an individual, and I was very happy with that. It's okay to put goals that are so lofty sometimes that may not be accomplished, but you want to have ones below that as well. So start with the biggest one you got, and then work down to the smaller ones, to the details. And the details are what are really most important, but we've got to have a big target to aim for first. Next thing is kind of like, okay, now I know what my goals are. I know what I'm looking for, and I want to write out my yearly outline. You can be more structured than that and write like a 5-year plan like people do with careers, but we're looking at a yearly outline first for, let's talk about this season right now. Hopefully, if you never thought about this, you could think about it right now, because I would have started this a little earlier before, people do New Year's resolutions. I'd start that earlier, looking into this next season, because CrossFit always is evolving with different competitions. You need to be prepared. So write out your yearly outline. Let's talk 2025. Where are you as an athlete? And that's essentially saying, hey, look yourself in the mirror. What can I do? What can I do? How competitive am I? How competitive do I want to be? Am I emotionally, physically stable to accomplish what I'm looking to accomplish, right? So know where you're at as an athlete first, and then where do you want to be? Where's that next step, right? And we, again, big to small, here's where we want to go, but we need to understand we need to take little steps on stairs to get to those big goals. We can't just leap to where we're trying to be at the end. So we're looking at where do we want to be, understanding that, just begin on our goal situation. Then we want to write out a training schedule. If we're looking at the year, right, and we have competitions, right, those are important. It's what people like to do. Some people love to just train, but competitions are kind of what most people get into this for. You need to look at like, hey, do I want to train? How many months? How long do my training cycles need to be? Luckily, if you have a coach, they're going to tell you what that looks like, right? You don't have to do it on your own. But if you're doing this on your own, you need to look at, one, getting help, but two, understanding what does a training cycle normally last? Am I trying to peak for competitions? Am I trying to get better at a season and not worry about competitions this year? That could be the case. But you need to understand, what does my training schedule look like on a macro scale of the year? So now we're looking at cycles, and then you need to look at like, what is your weekly training schedule? If most of us aren't going to be at the elite professional level, and you have to manage this around your work schedule, your life schedule, your environment, all of those things, your family. So knowing what can I actually do and not have some lofty, hey, I'm going to train 6 hours a day and you have a full-time job. Pretty difficult, right? You need to know how many days I need to train a week, how often I'm going to rest, all those things, but then looking at, do I want a 10-week cycle, 8-week cycle, 12-week cycle, 6-week cycle, all those things. Coach is really helpful here, but understanding what your training cycle in schedule is going to look like for the season. Okay, so for example, if I know I'm getting ready for the CrossFit Open, which is coming up typically in February, this year it is at the end, right now you could look at, you're going to run 8 weeks, 12-week cycles leading up into that, right? for the most part, if you're beyond a novice, the Open is just a stage to move next. It is now. So that 1% for the elites will not be an issue, even a pretty high RX athlete. But you need to understand, how do I create this cycle leading into that? Let's say I've created a 12-week or an 8-week cycle. I go into this Open. I should be looking at my next stage, which we will get to what it's going to look like soon. But that was one cycle. You're going to have to run multiple throughout the season. Start looking at what your season's going to look like based off these goals. How do we accomplish those goals? How do we get there? How do we decide what our goals are and what are our next stages to getting into accomplishing each single one? Build a strong foundation of characteristics. So that's the first thing of understanding yourself as an athlete. We all should have these pretty strong characteristics, and if you don't, start imitating and watching videos and YouTube videos, reading books on other great athletes. It's very important. Don't just go about life being like, I want to be great. Well, how do I want to be great, and how do I want to accomplish goals? Start looking at others that have been successful in sports or in business. It doesn't have to be sports, but because that's what we're imitating, start looking at that. Find your favorite athlete. Start looking at them. Whether it's in tennis, soccer, football, basketball, it doesn't matter. Go find one and start imitating them, okay? So we're looking at a few different things. There's a lot more than just this, but industriousness, friendship, loyalty, and friendship is specifically like your training partners. You need training partners. You don't need to train by yourself all the time. For some people, it is good to train by yourself, and others, you need a really strong friendship partnership of athletes to help grow you. That is very important. Cooperation, obviously, work together. Don't be a jackass, right? With your coaches, with your friends, with your classmates, if you're in classes, if you're just taking a normal CrossFit class, right, an affiliate, you need to cooperate with others. Self-control, understanding how to control your anger before you, like if you can't get a ring muscle up in a workout, like is it the right time to be aggressive and angry, or do you need to be like, I'm not there yet? You need to understand how to control who you are and what your emotions are going to be, because it's also important at the high level. You can't just freak out. Initiative, you need to take the initiative. That for the instance of you know what, if you can't get a ring muscle up, sometimes you need to keep just trying, and you have to understand the difference. When do I keep pushing that? When do I decide my initiative is I'm going to get up on my own at 5 a.m. because that's the time I have to do it? Decide what your initiative is and choose to be the person no one else is going to make me do this. That's because you want to do this, right? To accomplish goals, you got to choose to do it. Nobody else can do it for you. Intent, decide the purpose of what you're doing is. When you go into training, when you look at your workouts for the week, your intention is extremely important, especially at elite level. When you go in Monday, you better know what your training is and know why you're doing it. Am I supposed to be training as hard as I can? Am I supposed to be looking at, hey, this is a moderate intensity and I'm working on trying to get better at this movement under fatigue and make my reps as clean as possible? If you're just drug out, tired all the time, and you're not pushing yourself in the right ways, your intent it's not there. You're not going to get better in the way you need to. So choose what your intention is. Know what that is for each day of training, right? That's what we're looking at these little steps for, to create those big goals and get there. Know what that intention is and keep building upon it. Determination is obviously one of the most important ones at the end. You got to be determined. You're going to have struggles. You're going to find a lot of adversity through a lot of this stuff. And you got to be determined to go through it, right? You have to be determined to show up the days you don't want to show up. Accomplishing goals isn't easy. Nobody said it was, right? So be determined to find a way to get those done. Sometimes it's about finding a way, right? A lot of these goals, if you've never actually thought about this or even heard of John Wooden, basketball coach, one of the best in college ever, he has the pyramid of success. It's something you should look at if you've never looked at it. You'll find you'll find a lot more. It's a great stepping stone just to find out, hey, what does accomplishing goals and success look like? And yeah, it was based on a team atmosphere, but any of these goals, any of these things we're trying to accomplish in your season, whatever this looks like, takes a team. It's not just on you. Okay, you may not have training partners right now, or maybe you do. You may have coaches, or maybe you don't, but there are people around you. And those people around you are very important. So you need to start looking at that's also part of your team. Okay? So that's a good source to go and look at. You can go find a poster of it. You can go read a book. You can go anything about it. John Wooden's a great person to go look at, like, how do I create my success through these goals. The last couple of things we want to talk about in accomplishing these goals is kind of like, you are going to improve and you need to improve consistently, but it's on these small details. You could always find a little detail to get better at, right? And it could be planning. Maybe it's your nutrition and making sure that you planned out your food for the week. Just a small little thing, right? Instead of being like, I got to go to McDonald's. Hopefully you're not going to McDonald's, but like something just to eat, right? Make sure you structure it out so it's not a last second thing. That's a small detail. It's important. But find consistency in finding the details, refine those, get better at them, and be determined. Be literally someone that can't be stopped to find a way to get better about little details, okay? Put in dedicated effort in every single opportunity, every situation that comes your way. Put in effort. It's super easy because you can control. Control what you can control. It says it in every sport, every day you wake up. 1, it gets rid of anxiety, but 2, you can choose to get better. It's based on effort. Find a way, and every time that people go into gyms, they go into training and they just don't want to do it, find a way to give that effort, right? Do not back away with that. Find a way. Now, we're going to talk about what our CrossFit season looks like this year, plus other events outside the game season. We have our normal open. It's going to start in February. It's 3 weeks. We don't have a rule book yet, so we'll find out when that comes out. Get used to it. It happens. The sport always changing. Consistently changes, right? Been a part of the sport for a while. People have been a part of it a lot longer than me. It keeps changing. You need to be prepared and adapt to those things. If you like this sport, no one's making you do it. If you like it enough, you need to know it can change. It's going to change. Change is the only thing that is constant. Understand that. Okay? So open is 3 weeks, February to March. For anyone that is in the main open category, individual category, the top 1% is going to move on to our next stage. There's no more quarterfinals. We are looking at going into a semifinal style, which we'll get into it because it's a little complicated. If you're in any of the age groups, they're taking a minimum of 200 per age group. Okay, so that's what we're looking at. That's the minimum. Could be higher than that. They said top 2%, but the minimum is 200. Okay, so pretty big numbers still. Can be bigger than that. If you're pretty solid, you should be okay and understand that you're going to move on. The workouts also probably will be a little bit different than we saw in the last year or two because the open means a little bit more again. But then we have qualifiers. Post those 3 weeks of February to March, there are qualifiers running from April all the way to June. That's a long time. And a lot of us don't know where they're going to be placed. Okay, there's a lot of unknown right now. We do know anyone that's in North America East, if you do get placed to go into a in-person semifinal, which is, I don't know if that is the actual term they will use for these. I don't think it is, because the in-person affiliate will have a semifinal in May for you to do if you moved on from that 1% or the top 200 for the age groups. Okay, that is, the age groups will be April 4th weekend, just like it always has been with quarterfinal style. You don't know the workouts, you don't know how many, any of that stuff. We just know that's going to be the date. Has to be in an affiliate, right? Anything across the CrossFit Games season is in an affiliate. Has to be, okay? Post that, you have, again, the North American East. It looks like you may get 20 going there. We don't know. West is going to be TFX, and then we have constantly added other events going on. NorCal just got added. That's literally the qualifiers going on as I'm talking right now. You can go to that one. You can do an online qualifier for it, and then the top 2 from that one, male and female, can qualify to go to the games. However, the trick to that one is you have to be in the top 1% in the open. If you want to go to the CrossFit Games, you have to do the open. That's simple, okay? That doesn't mean all your CrossFit season has to be about the CrossFit Games. Doesn't. CrossFit is much more than that. It is many more competitions and events across the world, okay? So that's just a very basic rundown of what we know. Like we have the CrossFit Games at the end of, we don't actually know that yet. It's in August. We don't know where it is. Again, unknown. So if you guys know you're at an elite level, yeah, you can take the opportunity to run at the CrossFit Games and make it. But the percentage is even smaller than it's ever been. They're only taking the top 30 men and top 30 women, and only 12 as of right now from the in-person affiliate semifinal in May. 12 of them will qualify to the games. So the rest of these added athletes across the world will be from one of these new, what they used to be were sanctionals. They're on a list. And the best place to honestly go look at lists of workouts, competitions, all those things to find out what it looks like is going to be Brian Friend, Known and Knowable, Maureen Chaka, Barbell Spin, and there's a few others. Notice CrossFit doesn't do a very good job of promoting everyone across the globe, but these are really good people and places to find information about competitions, especially outside of CrossFit Games. Especially outside of that season, right? That's a big, long season that starts from February, runs all the way into August for a lot of unknown things, okay? But know that the competitions that are involved, and they keep evolving, they keep adding some, you gotta do the open. It's a safe bet, it's not hard to do. Go do the workout for 3 weeks in the affiliate, especially if you wanna be a part of this. If you don't, there's a ton of other competitions, okay? CrossFit events. There's Wodapalooza, there's, which now is the World Fitness Project, that is coming up. We'll see what that looks like, right? Could be exciting, could be a lot of really rebirth of what a competitive CrossFit and fitness can look like. Fitness to the Coast, great competition coming up soon. Dubai, very elite, very small, but hey, it's still there. NorCal, Rogue, those are just a couple. There's a ton. Beach Brawl is a little bit more local, but massive competition that's out there. What we want to look at and start researching is all these CrossFit events. I don't list them because I would take this entire board. Entire board has competitions. Okay, start understanding that your season isn't solely dedicated to this anymore. There is so much more going on. The sport is growing. As much as this CrossFit HQ is diminishing, the sport is expanding. So start understanding that the sport looks a lot different and will keep looking different, but our season can be addressed on however we want to structure it. That's why we're talking about this. So past that, we've looked at these. We've looked at what the CrossFit season is going to look like so far is what we know. What we need to start asking ourselves are, what level are your goals? What level are you at right now? Novice, intermediate, RX, all that good stuff, elite. Are you a team athlete, which team is a whole other situation. They're only taking 20 teams from an in-person semifinal. That's all it is. So that's why we kind of moved past. Unfortunately, they've kind of let the teams go on that. But if that is a goal of yours, you need to find the athletes to try and push for that. It's going to be a lot tighter and a lot harder to make it. But running back, what level are your goals? Where are you at? Now you can start looking at competitions that they'll give you scaled, intermediate. Sometimes, there's a bunch of age groups. If you're in an age group, choose those competitions clearly. They really do take care of you. If we're looking at moving into team stuff, again, look at team competitions. There are some that are very well known, and there will be some that continue to pop up and do a better job. But understanding what level are your goals, choose your competitions based off what level you are. Okay. They'll pretty much describe, hey, if you gotta have bar muscle ups, you gotta have ring muscle ups, or if it's double unders or whatever, it'll kind of, these competitions starting to list, hey, this is what you need to have to be able to compete in this division, okay? And then what level, are you currently? What are you right now versus what level of the goals you wanna be? If the goals you wanna be at are elite, and you have a RX mentality, maybe you need to pick a competition that challenges you and take last place in a Finish to the Coast, or maybe you can make a Wodapalooza RX. It's okay to be in last. There's so many good people. There's so many good people in this sport. It's okay. You need to know where your goals are, and sometimes competitions are learning experiences. So you need to move up past where you are right now, as long as you can qualify to get there, right? But these are two really important questions. Where are you right now? What are your level of goals, right? And choosing, I need to choose competitions I can do right now, but I also need to choose competitions that I may not be able to win. Okay, they're two important questions. So when we look at the season structure of how many competitions, that's always a question people want to ask. Well, how many should I do? When should I do them? Well, elite, honestly, on average, 3 major competitions is about the number. That can fluctuate. I personally like to just choose, I've always liked to choose just the larger ones, but that's just me. 3 major comps, you could do 4, but when you look at that, it's going every 3 to 4 months, which is pretty quick. You really need to understand that's a fast turnaround time for competitions. Yeah, some athletes are like, I'm going to compete this weekend, I'm going to another one the next weekend, just because they love it. That's cool if their body can handle it. We won't get into drugs, but some of those may be using it. Understand your body can only take so much before injury, and also emotional. You need to understand your body needs rest. You have to take time off to rest. So 3 to 4 is kind of the elite number. No more than 6. 6, that's every 2 months. You can't even run training cycles. And elites, depending on the competitions, can manage that, because a lot of them don't have to necessarily going through building all of the strength that they need to make the highest level, or the gymnastics, or the movement patterns, or any of that, right? The training modalities, they already pretty much have it there as long as they're staying in shape. But if we're looking at anybody else that's novice to RX, it really varies, right? I just mentioned strength. If you're not strong enough to manage whatever competition you want to be at or win it or get better at, you've got to spend the time in training and creating these training structures and schedules to get stronger. And getting stronger is not easy. It takes time. It takes a lot of time. So that might be something that you have to choose. Hey, well, I need to spend time on my training cycle, and I've got to get through all this strength. I need to push off competitions for 6 months, and I need to spend that time, a dedicated time to that, right? Or maybe you're already in shape and you're good to go, and you know what? Maybe you can do a competition every 6 months or every 2 months and have 6 competitions in the year, and one's a big one, and then one's a local one with your buddies and an affiliate, and you can do that. But you have to choose and know, where am I and where do I want to be? Just like we asked right here, right? And know I need to choose time specifically when I'm done with my competition to take time off. And that goes into your season structure. You got to do it. How long to take time off? Up to you. I mean, like super high level athletes, I tell them you need to stay out of the gym for a week after a big comp. But you can go jog, whatever, move around, but that's the answer for that one. Totally up to you. But we're for here varied, but be smart about it. Understand which competitions, what competitions fit me, and which we're going to talk about right here. My Venn diagram was very average. My apologies. We're looking at skills for one, right? What are your skill level? Ring muscle up, bar muscle up. Can I do 10 of them unbroken? Can I do 1? Can I do strict handstand push-ups, wall facing strict handstand push-ups, which is a big thing now. Knowing and deciding, hey, I need to list all my skills out. I need to know what I have and what I don't have, right? Obviously for the elites, you got them all. Demand and passion. Passion is basically, we're talking, what is important to you? Is there a place you always wanted to compete at? Is there a specific piece of a competition that you just want, right? What's your passion? Where's your place? Where do you want to be? Where do you want to go when you compete with your friends, family, all that kind of stuff? What drives you? What makes you happy? Don't go to competitions that you don't want to go to. Pick ones that you really want to go to. If you're an elite athlete, sometimes, yeah, you got to do things you don't want to do, but part of it's competition and you get to compete against the best, you're always in a good spot, okay? And then demand. Demand's a very intricate piece because demand can obviously mean a lot of different things. And what I'm specifically talking about is what's it going to cost you both physically and mentally, emotionally to go do this competition, the demand of this competition on your body. That's one way. Two is what's it going to cost monetarily, obviously your time. The next question as you get better is this competition highly sought after? We're looking at, can I make money? Can I level up into getting sponsorships? Is that going to promote me more social media wise to help me get those sponsorships? The demand of that competition. And that's only when you're looking at becoming a higher level athlete for that specific piece. But a good way is, like, I wrote this Venn diagram out because I can write out my skills. I can write all the passion I have out. I can write out the demand of this competition, and they're going to overlap. And what I kind of want to look at is I want to identify those overlaps. What really makes sense across this board? Okay? I mean, you can also do this with goals too, but identify the overlap. Look at that middle piece, and then you can kind of decide what makes the most sense for you when you're deciding on all these competitions, because it gets overwhelming. There's just so many, right? This is just a small list. Again, like I said, the whole board can get covered. You need to start looking at those. Again, go look at one of those 4 people or 4 companies to find out competitions that are bigger. You'll always find local ones if you're in your community, in your area. But we're going to choose all of those, and we need to prioritize our goals for those competitions. So just kind of like I was talking about, we're deciding, hey, look, man, I really want to do this competition, but it's not going to make me that much better because it's not going to push me closer to that goal. Maybe you should decide to let that one go, right? You only have so many competitions you can do in a year, like we talked about. You only have no more than 6. Don't do more than 6. So that's limited. So now how do I decide? Prioritize those goals. And you can look off, again, in that overlap. Next one is going to be your highest potential for success. Wins, stacked on wins are super important. They propel you forward. Your psyche, all of it. You need to choose ones that are going to make you successful, right? The highest potential to be successful. And success is defined differently for each person, right? You got to choose that for yourself. Is it an opportunity to go compete against the best people in the world and know you're going to get smoked, but try to make 1 inch closer to being better, right? How much closer can you close that gap on those athletes? That could be success for you. It might be winning the competition. It might be just being in a new environment with a bunch of athletes. That might be it too. Who knows? It depends on what level you are. We're going to have to choose what that is for ourselves, right? Last piece is going to be personal satisfaction on that. What's going to make you happy? What's going to drive you to want to show up, go home, train, and get better for those next competitions? If it doesn't fulfill you, then these competitions aren't going to help you to that ultimate goal, finding to be your best self, right? And that's why those goals are so important. You've got to have them written down. Don't just tell people, I want to do this, I want to do that. Like, write them down, because if you don't believe it, no one else is going to believe it. So find out what that looks like. At the end of the day, we've gone through what it looks like to write out your goals, what the season's going to look like, all these different competitions, what the games is going to look like. I promise this is going to change. It's going to move in another direction. The direction of this sport is going to keep getting better. It is. It's not going to live and die with this. The sport of fitness is a thing, and it's not going away. So keep believing in that and understanding I get to choose which ones I get to go to. There's more opportunity now. Previously, there wasn't. There wasn't a lot. You either went to local competitions or you were elite enough to either make the games, go to semifinals, regionals, whatever you want to call it, or go to Wodapalooza, which is the next big one. There's a lot of opportunity for athletes. But now there's so many other ones popping up. And knowing that I can choose what my season's gonna look like to keep inching myself better and closer to those goals, whatever they may be. If it is going to the games one day, because guess what? That may not even be your pinnacle soon in the next 5 years. We don't know. Rogue might take that. We don't know. Wodapalooza might take that. A lot of the elites look for money. What are you looking for? What are those goals are? That's what you need to understand. That's what you need to attack. And if you really struggle with understanding that, you should message any of us at Blacklisted, because we have really good ideas and we're looking for the most successful way to put you where you need to be to accomplish all of those goals.